friends, welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, the podcast celebrating movies and filmmakers that embrace the unhinged, the insane, the outrageous, the off-kilter, and the all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy who would have voted for Obama a third time if he was able to,
Alex Dandino. Griff, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been to a garden party? Weird, right?
Oh, love it. Yeah.
Super uncomfortable, especially when, you obviously, you don't like being there. If you do like garden parties, though, for $1 a month, you can join our garden party over on Patreon.
It's not like this one.
It's not like this one,
Let's just make
though.
it very clear. It has
This
nothing
one,
like this.
This one's, for everybody, not, just weird white people.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Anyways, for $1 a month, you can join our Patreon. You get access to our Discord, access to all of our exclusive stuff, such as our huge back catalog of exclusive content, along with our Black Mirror series and our Tales from the Griff, which is going quite well. Almost done.
Black Mirror, Tales from the Crypt. We got miniseries. We got
all kinds of
exclusives.
stuff.
We have a great community there. It would be amazing if you guys joined up.
For $1.
Yeah. For $1. $5 is the money platform. That's where you get all the shit unlocked.
Yeah,
That's
$5 is like the hotness.
baller. Yeah.
But again, I get it.
Also, subscribe to the YouTube Misfit Parade. Go to misfitparade.com to keep track of our movie that we're making, Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. We would appreciate that. We're on all the socials you're on. Great way to find shorts, clips, reels, TikToks, whatever. Great way to send those to your friends. Guys, we're asking everyone who likes this show, as you hear this plea, if you haven't skipped past it already, please send an episode to a friend, a movie-loving friend. Let's grow this thing out, fill it up with people we love. Another good way to do that, make sure you leave 5-star ratings and reviews. Woo! All right. We're done with that. I'm excited. Actually, when we were coming up with our
I'm stoked, man.
Our April Nipple Twist curation, right?
I still
you
can't
start
believe we
one
haven't
way,
done this one.
the movie twist, but it's like a euphoric. Hi, Daddy like. You turn the radio, Daddy like the station it lands on, right? We could not believe we did not discuss the movie Get Out.
Wow.
Get Out was a massive film when it came out. It felt like it was signaling the shift, right? There were horror movies before, and then there was going to be this rise of like the A24 neon kind of model of horror movies that were going to rise above the cultural stank that had usually been assigned to horror movies. These were horror movies now, but this felt like it was at the very front line of the elevated horror discourse.
Right. Sure.
Neither here nor there. Take all that shit aside. This movie is about, well, here's the synopsis on IMDb. A young African-American visits his white girlfriend's parents for the weekend, where his simmering uneasiness about the reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point. Boy, does that undersell what the fuck.
Boy, does that bury the
movie
fucking
is.
lead.
Yeah, not in a million. It's missing like 50 important words and adjectives that I would say you need to summarize this movie. This is a movie that just is all about race, confronting race in every element of every image of the film. And where do we stand on it, right? What does it mean to be too white? What does it mean to be not black enough? What does it mean, right, that the basement is locked because of black mold? You will be seeing and hearing race every single element of this film. And I think that's something that was important to the success of the movie, was this making us sit and stew in these things that I think we take for granted. Or I'm on the right side. I voted for Obama. It's all good.
Right.
This movie really sits you like you're in Kathleen. What's it? Kathleen Turner Overdrive.
Kathleen
Keener.
Keener.
That's what I meant. It really makes you feel like you're sitting in her chair, just fucking baking in the uncomfortableness. So, Alex, let's start off with our key players here.
Yeah, of course. Get Out. It's a 2017 psychological horror film starring Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Catherine Keener.
Yeah, get it right.
Stephen Root. It is
LaKeith Stevens or Stanfield? LaKeith Stanfield?
LaKeith Stanfield, and probably
Trying
one
to
of
say
my
LaKeith Stevens. That was so See, I'm in this movie's fucking with me.
Yeah, LaKeith Stanfield. I do want to. This is a really fun thing I like to point out. This movie was made for $4.5 million, and it grossed $255 million.
Woo! Dude, unbelievable.
It was a runaway hit. But, and I'm again burying the lead here, the most important key player in this movie is the director. It is written and directed by Jordan Peele in his directorial debut. And again, Griffey and I were talking about this before the show.
And won an Academy Award for best screenplay. Well deserved, too.
I don't think anybody, again, my first experience with Jordan Peele was Key and Peele and a little bit of Mad TV. Like, I remember these guys from Mad TV and particularly Key and Peele. Actually, I used to manage a security company, and we did the security for the first 2 seasons of Key and Peele. They were very nice guys. So it was a weird thing to be in a movie at one point and seeing a trailer for Get Out and being like, is this going to be a comedy? Like, I remember going to see Keanu in the theater and thought it was hilarious, but what is Jordan Peele doing? And boy, oh boy, were we lucky.
It is a seismic thing, right? Like, you look at it now, and so the last movie Jordan Peele gave us was Nope.
Yep.
We're getting a movie later this year, I believe, that we might have like a title, a one-word title.
I actually think it's going to be next year.
They're playing it close to the vest. We're not doing like now he's in that he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants category. Yeah. He's in this like auteur level,
which by the way, like rapidly moved into that.
Like he quickly, like seismically let the world know. Like I was the guy who was doing the shitty knockoff of the Chappelle Show. Now I'm fucking here.
Key and Peele was not a shitty knockoff show, but either way, it doesn't matter.
Key and Peele was a watered down, let's just regurgitate
I'm not getting into that. Let's not do that.
It's funny. I love that show.
But either way.
Think about where they were, though. They were the substitute for that slot that they needed.
The show,
from
and then
that to where
the
he is
Keanu.
Now.
Keanu was the... Because you think Keanu was the Key and Peele movie, and I was really excited. I loved it. And I actually remember...
That is a great movie.
It was really funny. And I actually remember us talking about, like, after I walked out of that movie, I'm like, you know what would be really fun? And I wish that they would do, that they won't do, was I was hoping if they were going to do more Key and Peele movies, like, it would be awesome if they did, like, Abbott and Costello movies, where it's like Key and Peele meet the Wolfman or something like that. I was like,
well, the thing you notice, too, they were both such better performers than Chappelle. I think Chappelle's show was way more funny. And a little more biting.
Chappelle's show had a much
performers were so much better. So when you saw them in Keanu, you're like, oh, these guys have like a lot more range than I think I expected, right? Like as performers, they so excelled. Mm-hmm. And then when you got this like Get Out, right? And you kind of got the hint that it was like this racial horror movie. You're like, all right, okay. You started seeing interviews. And again, it's one of those things I think now we can do Nope. And we get this weird, ambiguous, here's a mix of TV and animal cruelty and stunt people and, aliens that have no form and what are we being... now he's doing these really big blockbuster, abstractions.
He hasn't made... This is what's cool about Jordan Peele. Because, again, watching this yesterday, and I know we said this, but the rapidity... with which he moved into, I'm Jordan Peele filmmaker, is shocking. Like, he got just the fact one movie in, and that was
third movie he got to make Nope.
Yeah.
And that just didn't get studio noted to death.
Yeah.
Is fucking crazy.
It's insane.
His second movie, Us, still to this day, I've watched that movie a bunch. It literally makes next to no sense, right? At a core level. Like, it's a fun movie. There's a lot of shit I like in it. But, I mean, we did a pod about it. We tried to, could this make sense? And it's like, at best, you're just like, no, Jordan Peele just says, I want to make this cool thing, and images and logic be damned. It's a vibe movie. And it is. And the fact that he was given so much leeway is because this movie, he won the fucking Oscar.
He won an Oscar for a horror film.
Much money. And honestly, I don't know how bad a movie of his would have to do to slow him down. And I think that is one of those things. So setting the tone, this was a wild... oh my God. Our parents didn't know who Jordan Peele was before this. I remember my mom calling me and being like, did you watch Get Out? It's unbelievable. The amount of old white people I knew that you're like, oh, they're not going to tolerate this. That somehow fucking loved this movie. I know a lot of old white people in my life and vicinity
You know
as
what?
a guy who grows up in Indiana.
Yeah.
That constantly are, let's just put it this way, having opinions that feel regressive, that watch this movie and really were into it. And I think here's the
I'm
secret.
sure some of that is that they see themselves.
Well, I think the secret weapon is, based on the whites that I am in family with,
Yeah.
is that because Bradley Whitford does the Obama thing, they're like, oh, it's racist liberals. That's fine.
Okay.
And I think because it was racist rich liberals and not
I thought that too.
country people, it was okay.
I thought that too. I think that it's fast. Like, again, it's so, everything about the first, see, how long is the movie? It's like 2 hours long. Is that like, there's 104 minutes long. So it's basically everything about the first, like, 90 minutes of the movie. That's not true. Like, probably like the first 80 minutes of the movie is meant to completely disarm you. It leads up to one key moment that you know is coming in the back of your head. Like, this movie does such a good job. Like, it's paced. That was another thing that was really fascinating. I was reading Jordan Peele's quotes too, is he was talking about like horror and comedy have such similar pacing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like
absolutely.
the key component for the movie, which is true.
There's
And
not
again,
much difference between a scene that ends in a punchline and a scare from a mechanical level.
Well, I mean, and we'll get to this. That's how at least that's how the theatrical ending works. That's why the theatrical ending works so well, because you're like, because you're holding your breath pretty much for like 30 minutes. But basically, up to the 80-minute mark, you're meant to be disarmed by how like awkward and uncomfortable this is, and you're just like, oh my god, and reminding yourself over and over again that like, man, this is the result of like wild neoliberalism, where these people just like have no, like, they've never seen. It's like when he calls his when he calls his friend Rod, and he's like, it's like they've never seen a black person before. It's crazy. Like,
yeah,
you're like, that's part of the bit. You're like, the whole 80 minutes of this movie is meant to disarm you, to take you into the last 30. And you're like, damn, how did I not, like, you feel it coming too, because you've seen the trailer. It's not like you don't know something's happening, but you're like, when's it happening? And even when it does happen, even if you've seen the trailer, if you've watched the movie before, when it happens, it's still so gut-wrenching and uncomfortable. Like, everything about how this movie paces itself, watching it yesterday, and look, I've seen this movie a bunch, I still am just like, oh my god, I'm so uncomfortable.
It's
I feel
no
so awkward.
fucking power.
No teeth.
None.
All teeth in there.
It's incredible.
The
Well,
bite
what it
is there.
is it's this interesting setup, right? Because at the start of the movie, we see this black guy get abducted in a nice, like, kind of suburban looking neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
That's LaKeith Stanfield's character, who comes back later. And it has this run, rabbit, right? And it's like, this is all bad. This is not good. Don't
This
like
seems
this.
bad.
Then we cut to this relationship where Chris is just, hey, do your parents know that I'm black? We're gonna meet them. And she's like, no, why would I be like, oh, my black boyfriend's coming? And he's like, trust me, man, like, I've been down this road. Sometimes it's better to prepare them.
It will put them on edge.
Yeah, and we're hinting at this. Allison Williams, like, no, not us. Like, we're not those people. My dad likes Obama. It's all good. We're not like that. And on the way out there, we start the movie. I think this is the scene that kind of sets the tone for what this movie's trying to do, which is they get pulled over. They hit a deer.
Yeah.
They get pulled over for a minor violation. And this cop is like, hey, I need your ID, right? Like, going at Chris. She's like, he's not even driving. And he's like, I've got the right to look for anyone. And it's like, okay. This feels like, you're like, okay, this is the kind of horror of a racial movie of this tone that I'm used to.
It's meant to completely distract you.
But see, I think that's the thing. This is before we're distracting. This is to draw the line of, this is clear-cut racism, right?
Sure.
And the kind of racism we're used to. We see on the news all the time, cops violating the liberties and rights and, honor of African-American people all the time. And when she stands up to it, we're like, she's an ally. She's a savior. Because this is the thing. Allison Williams is the MVP of this mechanic. Because the rest of the movie is Chris saying, holy shit, look at these white people run amok. Yeah. And he tells her, and she goes, oh, well, she like makes a joke out of it, like, oh, you're so cool that everyone wants your body? And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess when she says it like that, it's insane. And it's like, he's ignoring clear red flags because she comes in the guise of an ally.
Well,
and she must be a sex demon, you learn by the end of the movie.
But I think what's interesting about the pullover scene too is it's a perfect misdirect because it is like a clear cut case of police like profiling racism. Like you're sitting there like you knew how it was going to go. Like that interaction, you knew how it was going to go. And then when she starts being like, oh well, you don't need his leg. I'm the one driving. Like why do you need that? That's her standing up. You're like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Like it's so I understand what you're saying, like where it's the line. What's fascinating to me though is like it's so obvious that it's essentially like to say like, hey, racism. It's right there. It's right there the whole time.
But going back, it's also hard to go back to a time before you've done this journey.
It's perfectly, but again, it's perfectly.
You feel like she is going to be the one who's on his side, even if the family goes bad.
Sure.
And she has this line after. There are so many of these lines in the movie that are like incredible on the second watch where she goes, no one messes with my man. And you don't realize that it's the man she's captured, right? Yeah. Like, you don't get to take him to jail. I'm going to take him to jail.
Right.
And it's so fucking haunting. But Allison Williams is deployed in this way. And she's talking to Rod. She seems fun. She seems cool. Like, she couldn't possibly become this evil fucking rape, because that's what the movie's doing, right? There's no real point in making a movie about an absurd, like, local rural group of racists, right? They just want to capture these guys. Or not there's no point, right? But that's something we've seen before. We get that when we see a Klansman movie, right? We know exactly who those people are. We dehumanize them. They're bad, blah, blah, blah. What this movie wants to do is be like, these are the people that are probably closer to you, that think they're good, that think they're allies, right? That hide behind these trappings, that when they see a young black guy in their house, they're like, my man. They're doing Denzel voice and shit, right? And just those subtle things that start to shift, right? When he's like, when Bradley Whitford's like, I get how it looks, us having black servants, like, I hate it. I'm an Obama vote. And see, that's the thing. That's how I think we all feel, right? Is like, we're trying so hard to not be.
Yeah.
That sometimes it turns around and you come around and you're like, shit, am I doing wild shit?
Right.
Like,
it's like this perfect not beating you over the headness of like, again, it's just it's paced so well. It's like, yeah, Bradley Whitford is this awkward white guy apologist, and not to say that white people don't have a ton to apologize for.
What does he say? He's like, how long is this thag been and it's like, oh no! Oh, it's like, again, Jesus. It's not like meant to be cruel. It's an inherent. I have to act different and weirder because you are black.
Yeah, it's the road to hell paved with good intentions, but like that should not have been your intention at all. Like, you're like, dude. He's a human being. Talk to him like a normal human being. Like, he doesn't. Yeah. Like, what's the matter with you?
Oh, dude, you get a lot of white guys, like when you're out in public, you get a lot of white guys that start dropping brother. You know what I mean? And not in like a Hulk Hogan proverbial sense. Like, you see this a lot with people where you start trying to change or the way you talk. And again, I think that's what this movie's about. And then at the end, it just explodes the lid off that. And it's like, this is just like old school racism.
I don't know about you, like from Wipeout days, like I always just like, I sometimes just say brother, like when I'm talking to people, like, oh,
no. Yes, brother. I say brother in a proverbial, like, right. That's something
I don't think about it, but
I'm telling you, I've been at bars where you see the white guy who goes in for like the super cool high five.
Right.
And does like the brother, and it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you think you're doing something cool.
In the course
you're walking a fine line.
In the course of watching this movie, it's like, have I ever said brother in a bad way? Or like in a way that like makes me look like Bradley Whitford from this movie? I'm like, I'm trying to think. Like, it's such a fascinating.
And that's the thing.
It's such a fascinating moral inventory this movie forces you into.
I mean, we're not trying to get political per se, which is impossible. And this is a very politicized. This movie is
political.
But we are both very liberal guys, right? And I think what this movie's doing is we think that makes us bulletproof. That like when we have racial thoughts or this and that, it can't be like that because we're on the good side. We're one of the good ones. We get a pass. And this movie's sitting there, and what you're doing by sitting with Chris is you're starting to understand as an audience in a way that white people will just never get what it's like to be black in this predominantly white society that has this horrifying history of racism and slavery, right? And that wherever Chris is, there's that scene when he's talking to Georgina that we don't know yet is an old white lady in disguise.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you know how it is. I get a little uneasy when too many white people are in one place. And that's something that us as a white audience, some people would probably balk at that and be like, hey, what the fuck? We're not that bad. That's the point, is that Chris is saying that in these high elevated spaces, in these wealthy spaces, in these enclaves, in these upper crust of society, the only other black people he sees there are the two people working there who are really old whites in disguise. And then we see LaKeith Stanfield's character, Dre, who has been co-opted. And he dresses like an old white. And he talks like an old white. And that there is this basic concept of, I do not ever fit in. And when we see that horrifying garden party where the, old white lady's like squeezing him, right? Yeah. Or it's, we talked to, I talked to one of my black friends at one point. We were out. So I had this roommate who lived with me, black guy. And he's like, the number one thing, because he was like fucking massive ladies man, right? Everyone loved him. He was jacked. He was going to go pro. He thought he played college football. And he's like, the number one turnoff he had was white ladies that would just come up and the first thing they would do is want to touch his hair. And it was just one of those things. I was like, I guess, like, I have long flowing locks.
Sure.
And I've never thought about it. I'm like, oh, that means that's another way for me to have sex with women. That's cool. But he's like, no, it's not that. They're not, like, they're touching it because it's an immediate, I am a different thing. I am a novelty. Right. And again, it's one of those just, we'd be going out and hanging out, and it's like, there's just shit I don't have to think about. When I lived in L.A., you live in L.A., when I talked to my wife, and she's like, every time I go outside or jogging or leave the place at night, I am scared. And I was like, oh, yeah, I never have to think of it. And I think that's what this movie's about, disarming those barriers and having us sit in the pot and be like, what would that feel like if we were not just part of the predominant society?
Right. I think, well, and that's, again, that is the best, it's the best summation of what, like, the garden party is supposed to do for you. It was like, you're supposed to be sitting there in this discomfort. Also, just to point it out there, if you're watching the garden party scene and you feel okay about what's going on, you're weird. And
you're like, fair questions. Fair. This is, what's going on? You're like, why are they being so mean to Caleb Landry Jones? He's just talking about MMA. It's like, brother,
you're a terrible person.
See, there, I did it. See, that's how I say it, brother. I say it in a very Hulk Hogan before I knew he was the worst person on earth. I grew up in a real Hulk Hogan, like, hey, brother. And then you find out later Hulk Hogan is like the poorest get out guy.
So we get through this whole sequence.
Thank you for not acknowledging Hulk Hogan. It's good.
I'm not going to acknowledge Hulk Hogan. We get this whole sequence with Bradley Whitford doing the cast is so well cast. And again, like, this is that great example of, like, the strength of a great script brings in this kind of talent. Like, I mean, Bradley Whitford's just an unbelievably, also Bradley Whitford's been like the champion of men everywhere, like men, like the proverbial, like, people everywhere. Like, this guy was on The West Wing, so that's how we know, like, all these actors.
He battled that fucking shitless layabout Billy Madison.
All these actors are cast so specifically because Catherine Keener has never been an actor who's been, like, a bad guy in anything. She's just...
So, before this, she actually gave one of the scariest performances I've ever seen.
In what?
In a movie called An American Crime, which is actually about a crime that happened here in Indiana. And so what it is she captures Elliot Page, who's a kid, right, who, like, hangs out at her house.
Right.
And Elliot Page did something, I can't remember how it went down, but essentially Kathleen, Keener is like, hey, you gotta make this right. They chained this kid up in the basement, and her, like, 9 kids proceeded to torture the fuck out of this kid.
Right.
And so she's in that movie. I think it was maybe 2006-ish?
2007.
Nice. Almost nailed it. But, dude, she is fucking horrifying. Because to me, she was the lady in not Knocked Up, 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
God,
yeah, exactly.
she has a great laugh. She seems so fun and charming.
Catherine Keener,
and I saw her in American Crime, and I was like, oh, God damn. And then you see her in this, and you're like, it's kind of the perfect blend of
Catherine
that charm.
Keener has always been an
underneath.
actor who's been in. She's always been in things for me that are. She's like being John Malkovich and 40-Year-Old Virgin. Like that's how I know Catherine Keener. So again, like Bradley Whitford, Catherine Keener, Allison Jones very specifically was cast because of is the idea, like Jordan Peele talks about this. He wanted Allison Williams specifically because her ability to be a red herring, because no one knew her from anything other than Girls at this point.
Yeah.
And then she did the live television version of Peter Pan. So like these are the ways we know Allison Williams.
That's a great way to ensure no one knows who the fuck she is.
So she's like a perfect red herring to like throw off the scent of like something horribly sinister, but particularly her being in on it. I think the only thing is like Caleb Landry Jones is this perfectly cast. Like, yeah, I get it. You're weird. Like you're not. It's not like,
dude. He's my new number one.
He's
it's
the
like
perfect,
him and
like,
Walton
new racism
Goggins.
guy.
No, yeah, it's him and Walton Goggins for me. It's like when they eventually reboot Freddy Krueger, it should be one of those two guys.
Sure.
And Caleb Landry Jones is so. I fucking love that kid. I think he one of these days is gonna have that Barry Cohagen moment where like, oh, his weirdness is gonna pop in a big way. Again, in this movie, I think he's representing the only point of view we don't have, which is if you were born and raised in this essentially white supremacist, not essentially, they 100% think that the white brain at least is more valuable, even though, as they say, you've been gifted all these genetic advantages, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to like pilot you like Gundams, essentially, is the plan, right? It's fucking crazy, right? But Caleb Landry Jones is I'm a rich white guy.
Yeah.
Who gets whatever I want all the time. And I go out and hunt these African-American people. You see him like he's drinking too much. He's always on edge. He's like, I will say the lacrosse poles is like the lamest fucking henchman weapon. Like there's an inherent pussiness to like rich white kid weapons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the perfect like rich white kid thing is, oh, I have a lacrosse stick. You're like, sure you do. Yeah. I'm sure you do.
Cool.
Like, between that and
I'm sure
like,
lacrosse guys are badass and would fucking be furious at hearing this, but
between that and croquet balls, like this is like some of my favorite like weaponry against white people.
I'm just saying, if your sport is only played at rich white kid schools, I don't think it's a tough guy sport. That's my only problem. I guess hockey would take advantage with that. Only the richest, whitest schools have hockey.
He's like the literal manifestation of the concept of white privilege in a person, like in a character in a movie.
Right.
Like,
and he literally can't even contain his, like, I'm going to go try to choke this guy out.
Yeah.
He can't hold it back for even 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, I think this is Allison Williams. You see the way she even, like, goes at her own family. Mm-hmm. She's such a perfect stooge. And we see her later, like, deactivated when she just goes, full milk straw.
Yeah.
And you see, like, the empty husk that she is.
Dude.
I did fucking laugh when they pull out the box of photos of her with all the other black guys. She's like, I only had the one. You're my only black boyfriend. And the one where she has fucking, what's his name? Walter, right? The guy who her grandpa took over so he can do wind sprints. Yeah. Also, I was like, hey, grandpa, if you want to do wind sprints, like, you're picking big guys, dude. Big guys running sprints is tough, man. That seems like an odd fit. As a large man, I was like, I know what that does to the knees. Neither here nor there. But when she had the red bandana on in that photo, I was like, okay, she's got it too. She also has the, like, unintentionally not a good look. Neither here nor there. So fucking good, though. And again, I think that's the thing is we watch is Chris is, like he calls up his friend and he's like, dude, I think the mom hypnotized me.
Yeah.
He knows this isn't right. He saw Grandpa running at him. He saw Georgina like cross-eyed in the fucking glass, right?
Yeah.
And, Lil Ray Howard, what's his name? What's his character?
Lil Rel Howery's character is Rod.
Rod, that's what it is. I wanted to say Ray, it's Rod. Him just being like, sex slaves, they're fucking making you sex slaves. And it's hilarious.
Oh,
but again, it's a way even his own friend runs so wild to a conspiracy. then it disarms Chris again. And that's the theory of this movie, is watching Chris be the frog that is getting slow boiled.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's like, this isn't right. I know this is wrong. And then all of a sudden it's really wrong. I'm not a sex slave.
Yeah.
Right? And then his girlfriend's making light of it. And then he's like, oh, they're just, they're weird old whites. And then, Dre's been missing. But, even the police, like, laughing at Rod, they're like, oh, yeah, he met a rich old white lady? Duh, he's cashing out. Like, you just don't get anyone who is giving him a chance to realistically stop and be like, this is wrong. Even when he's like, dude, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I have to get the fuck out of here. And she's like, without me. And she turns around and pouts. And I was like, yes, run! Don't give her a chance to regroup.
You're
she
home.
knows where the
You'll
apartment
be fine.
is. But he doesn't. Because again, and it's this weird, it's not reverse racism. I don't know what the phrase is, but it's this weird, she's one of the good white people. So he also doesn't want to offend everyone in the house, even though he should absolutely run. It's this other way where the kind of rich whiteness of it is a shield, where Chris feels like he has to follow some decorum instead of just fucking burning this place to the ground immediately. And I think that's the hardest part in the movie, is watching that slow burn.
Yeah.
Right? And just imagining what that must feel like. And then by the time we get to the Sunken Place, you're like, oh, fuck, here it is. Well, this is the movie the trailer was promising me.
Well, hang on. I wanted to ask you about this, because the Sunken Place stuff happens before the garden party.
I had actually forgotten that. I thought the Sunken Place was the end of the ruse, and we were just into the thing.
So the Sunken Place happens the night before the garden party.
Yeah.
It's this really, again, this is an impeccably edited scene of film, by the way.
There is pretty much not incredible. A fucking flaw on this.
There's not a frame wasted in this movie.
This movie, to me, is about as close to perfect as you could get.
We're right there.
Maybe 3 too many TSA jokes. But what a small quibble.
But even still,
what a small quibble.
we're trying to find something that doesn't make this a perfect movie, because honestly, it is.
Oh, to me, it's an absolute perfect. You can turn it on any day, any room, any mood. This movie rips.
This scene is it's edited impeccably, but she basically. So this is the the first hypnotism scene.
That fucking scene, sledgehammer.
It just it sort of just leaves you breathless.
It's the kind of scene you can't imagine a guy. And again, he had a long career, right?
Yeah.
And, he's a creator. It's not like he walked in and is like, I've never written or directed anything.
It's not like he wasn't thinking about this,
Right, but I'm just saying the cinematic techniques and pacing and the metronome effect of that scene.
Music.
There are great directors who don't have a scene that good in their whole filmography. Great directors. It is one of the most incredible scenes I've ever seen in my whole life.
I mean, it's just when they do those AFI lists, this has to be in the 100 greatest scenes of all time, and well within the top 10, to be honest with you. It is.
Woo!
I'm sorry.
Awesome. Hey, you're not getting any argument from me. I'd have to actually look at a list. This is as good as movie scene as I've ever seen.
If there's a scene in a movie that tells you exactly what kind of movie all of a sudden that you're in, not only that, but literally the bottom drops out of the film and you have to sit in this fear. This is the fucking movie, man. It is incredible how this happens.
We talked about this when we did the Rule of Jenny Penn episode, right? The thing that is so scary about the aging geriatricness of that movie is not the chicanery. It's the I am fucking trapped in this flesh. The idea at the core of Get Out, which is so fucking horrifying, and I'm sure there's other stuff that's scary as hell for everyone. For me, it's that watching him sink into that abyss with that small window, and then later when Stephen Root's like, we have to talk, this will make the process go smoother, right? Yeah. And he's like, you'll still be in there. You still have to watch. I need all those neuron connections to pilot you. And it's the terrifying version of being John Malkovich, where you're like, Chris will sit in there and watch this white guy
live his life
and pilot his brain. use his African American body to do other things, right? Or it's such a loaded concept.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck would Chris possibly be thinking as he watches all this, right? And Stephen Root's like, don't lump me in with them. I just want your eyes, man. I'm not worried about race, or I don't care what race anyone is. I just want your eyes. You're like, that's not better, creep. Like, that's not better that you're taking over anyone else's brain.
Yeah.
But watching that Sunken Place scene, and again, the brilliance of that is Chris is like, oh, what are you going to get your watch? And she's the whole scene. Shh, shh, shh. We hear it. Yeah. And Chris is already caught and doesn't know. And there's that moment where he's like, I can't, because she's asking him about his mom. He's like, I don't want to, talk about it. And he was like frozen with fear. He didn't help his mom when he thinks he could have, whatever. And we keep flashing back to him on that bed, just watching TV like so many of us did.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, I can't move. And she goes, you can't move. And it's like, oh, like this. I mean, no monsters, no weapons, no. It's so fucking terrifying and haunting. She goes, now sink through the floor. And we hit that like sound. We see young Chris fall through his bed, and then he is literally floating in this black abyss. Mm-hmm. And she comes in, she's like, now you're in the sunken place, right? And she just so clinically tells him all this. It's fucking horrifying, the concept of it.
It's just
the idea of the loss of self, right? The loss of identity. It's so scary. What I did not remember, because I was like, wait, this happens right now? He just wakes up in his bed.
Yeah.
And he's like, everything's, oh, wow, what a weird dream.
Well, again, it's this perfectly disarming moment because it happens, and then he doesn't have to, because they had brought up the smoking thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I tried smoking, it made me sick to my stomach. He's like, I think your mom hypnotized me. I'm like, and so even though we know that this,
and she just goes, no, she didn't. And it's like, whoa, that is not a reasonable
That's your
response.
Reaction?
Yeah. That's like mom bought us tickets to a concert without asking if we're free. That is not what happened here.
It's such a fascinating thing though, because it ends up being this thing again where it just like it misdirects you a little bit. It's like, oh, she doesn't want him smoking. We all know it's coming, because even if you hadn't seen the movie, you didn't know what was going to happen. You at least knew from the trailer something was amiss here.
Right. Well, what is crazy is because when this happens,
you're just sitting.
It's this weird. Now we know exactly what movie we're in. That they are going to co-opt him, right? That his blackness has somehow made him a target where he's going to get co-opted. Again, there is no universe where I ever imagined the very end of the movie. There are so many brilliant moments as you watch it back where you're like, oh, he talked about how his grandfather was a sprinter. The moment we see Walter acts too white, we should have known exactly what was happening, right? Yeah. We should have seen it coming, but how could you get to, like when Bradley Whitford's doing the silent bingo thing, you're like, okay, I get it's an auction, it's evoking this kind of historical imagery.
Yeah.
There's a meat market nature to it that's very uncomfortable. You're like, okay. But we got out of the hypnosis. So again, you're like, the fact that it happens at the middle point, and Chris again refuses to acknowledge that is a huge line crossed, and he just keeps hoping that Allison Williams' character will save him, essentially, or that he's reading too much in it, that this is a nice family, and his paranoia from past traumas is interfering. The fact he doesn't run immediately, right, sets us up. We even get the, Georgina, no. Like, that moment is fucking incredible. Like, one of the best trailers. You're like, yeah, hell yeah, dude. That is worth tons of money right there. And then when he flashes Dre, and Dre's, get out. Yeah. And he's like, that's not a seizure. My cousin had he sees so much evidence piling up. Why does he not leave in your mind? Besides, it's a movie. But I think it's an important, it shows something about the character choice of Chris, that maybe you just can't escape these things. Maybe that's the point for us, the audience.
I would say it's a little bit of that. Like, it's a little bit of you can't, but then the other part is the disbelief. Like, look, I've never been in this situation. Let me just clarify.
Literally, no one has ever come for my body. It's just not a desirable asset.
No one wants this. No one wants this.
There's no coolness or supposed genetic enhancements. Yeah, there's nothing.
Absolutely none. But
as Danny DeVito said in Twins, you're telling me I'm the crap? That's what happened. That's what happened.
But
Here.
I've been in the. But I think we've all had. God, this is a weird thing to say because, like, again, like this is not what this movie's about. Like, it's about.
We're gonna say a lot of things that are uncomfortable as two white guys talking about Get Out.
In terms of like, why don't you leave? Like, I've been in those situations with family where you're sitting there with other people's families, where you're sitting there in a situation where you're like, leaving will make it worse somehow. Like, and you're not, because again, to that point, you're not thinking yet. He's not thinking yet about like, oh, I'm in danger here. It's only
you would
when
never
he sees
think your body's getting kidnapped and shit.
Well, it's only when he starts looking through those photos he finds in Rose's room. And he's like, weird.
Yeah, because she can't find the keys for a shockingly long amount of time.
Right. Well, that's so before he starts like begging her for the keys, basically, he finds that box of photos and then sees the picture.
That's where she has the red bandana, and you're like,
yeah, the picture of Walter's vessel.
Yeah,
so you're like,
come on. And Georgina's in there, yeah. So she's been like swinging from both sides, right? Whoever needs to get got. So, but there's this other concept in the middle here of because we see Allison Williams like pout and hold him out there so they can do the auction.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this, let's go home, let's whatever. She becomes he is at the mercy of her graciousness as his white ally in this place, as it's her car, as they are in the middle of nowhere, right? I don't know where that is. What if he goes out in those woods and he dies of exposure and animal attacks? Like, there is this, he is at the mercy of his very nice white girlfriend, he thinks. In that moment, because he's like, Rose, where are the keys? Because the dad's like, what is your purpose, Chris?
Yeah.
Right? We are divine. We are we can do whatever. Even the
he does that whole thing about
it's
fire.
Fucking great. And he looks like Elijah Wood in Sin City. His glasses are just like a lip.
Yeah.
And Caleb Landry Jones is like a psycho, like half off the leash, swinging his little stick around. And he's like, Rose, give me a key. She's like, I'm trying. And then she drops him and her
finally
face drops.
The drop in the act is just like, I can't get
it's
keys, right?
Fucking devastating.
Yeah.
And then they shut him down. And now we are really in the like end game of the movie, which is we find out that this family has what's called the
Coagula Process.
The Coagula Process, where they take, because we see Walter when he was an old white guy, right? And we see the family, a younger Bradley Whitford, the two kids are actually children. Mm-hmm. And he goes, you have been given these genetic gifts, but with our hard work, right? He says something along that, like our hardworking whiteness, right? And I was like, oh my God, he's just layering stereotype on stereotype. And your genetic gifts, right? We will form a more perfect union. And so, again, this gets back at that white liberal thing. We're not racist. We're not afraid of the black body.
Yeah.
We just wish it were piloted in a whiter way, right? And it's like, oh my God, like what a cutting remark. And they talk about how they just implant some white brain into this black body and how perfect that becomes and how everything will be great. And then we see that him and his wife have done that, right? That now Stephen Root is the one who bought Chris because he wants eyes, right? He wants to not be blind. And so they're going to do this transplantation, as they say. It's such a wild kind of B-movie premise,
but
that is just so
perfectly,
absolutely horrifying and devastating in the midst of this movie.
Yeah, I mean it's so weird. Like it's such a strange thing because
so
again,
fucking bizarre.
I don't know about you, like so this. Look, I often go to movies having known what happened already. Just because
this movie, I did not get there.
This one, I was very specific. I'm like, I don't want to know anything about this movie going.
When you watch the trailer back, I thought this was going to be more of a surviving the game thing.
Yeah, I did too. Actually,
something like that. Like he's in
thought
this
it was
like
going to be a little more like,
and he's hunted.
I thought it was going to be very specifically like, oh, we're in the South. Everyone should know what's about to happen. I'm like, it's a greatly disarming movie. When they explain what the process is, it's like, never would have guessed this one.
Not in 1,000 fucking years.
Like, you could have shown me a billion movies that, like, inspired it. And I'm like, that would not have been where I would have taken
Not on
this
the bingo card whatsoever.
Not in my life.
Yeah, old whites want to take over these black young bodies with brain surgery.
Old whites want to Gundam the like black people.
The Evangelion theme song. Just fucking giant
like,
philosophical titties everywhere.
And you're just like weird and uncomfortable. And then again, this is really like the thing. So the Stephen Root scene when he's like when he's like his head shaved and he's getting ready. Again, the capper for me, it just keeps coming back to this thing of like, I'm not this kind of racist. And you're like, it's even worse. He's literally
it's the I'm a good white, right?
Yeah,
like
him sitting
I would
please
never.
don't lump me in. Please don't lump me in with these black as fashionable people. I just want those eyes of yours. I'm like, oh my God. Do you not hear yourself? Like, it's this perfect
he's actually
summation.
worse because he lays bare
He's
the
terrible.
real conceit of the movie, which is I'm a rich person. I think no one else has value, right? Because he's like, the fact that you're black is inconsequential. You're like, brother, that's not better. What you're doing is admitting that no one has value because they're poor playthings for you.
Yeah.
That's a different kind.
Like,
that's classism or whatever.
The level of racism that takes
dehumanizing.
in your brain is so shocking. You can't even consider it. Like, you're just like, you're so racist that.
Well, again, he thinks he's not racist because he's judging him based on his wallet, not his skin color. And you're like, that's not tremendously noble or better.
Again, it's this perfect like summation of like the white. Like,
you thought you did something there, didn't you, pal? That's what you thought happened. You thought you did a good thing, didn't you, pal?
It's just that perfect summation of like what white guilt manifests into like horrible racism eventually. Like, it's just this crazy. It's so well conceived, and then coming out of Stephen Root too, who just.
Because weirdly, I believe him when he says it, that he thinks
I do too.
He's not.
I think this is something that I love.
I believe Bradley Whitford when he thinks he's not. You know what I mean? Because you want to believe these guys. Again, casting is so critical in this movie because you want to believe Bradley Whitford isn't this huge racist piece of shit. You want to believe that Stephen Root... We know that he is, but we
absolutely is.
Again, this is the classic, the best movie villains think they're the good guy. And in a weird way, you're like, they probably think they're doing a kindness for Chris. Like, they probably somehow in their twisted philosophy and conception of this process, at some level probably think they're pretty A-OK people.
Well, on this run, too, I was thinking a lot about, because the first Sunken Place scene, she's like, do you smoke in front of my daughter? I'm like, okay, this is a fascinating thing because, like, everybody at the garden party is being, like, super awkward and like feeling his arms and shit and talking about blacks and fashion. I'm like, all right, Pappy Van Winky, just get out of here.
Also, like, hey, what are your thoughts on the entire African American experience?
Like, what's your thoughts
on
the
damn, dude, fuck off. And Chris doing
Jesus
this great,
Christ,
by the way, we have not really sat and spent enough time just gushing. Daniel Kaluuya,
dude.
I mean, this is like one of the best horror movie performance because in that moment he's like, ha, 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 like he's trying to blow it off. And then he's like, hey, why don't you take this woman? It's his performance. And again, we had seen him first in a Black Mirror episode, which you can find on the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon. 15 Million Merits. You're like, this kid's fucking great. Like,
by the way,
got something.
That's why he was cast in this movie.
Dude, he fucking annihilates this movie. This is such a delicate performance that he's doing where he always has to try to play it cool.
Yeah.
But you can see under the surface he is constantly like roiling. Like,
I read this interview with him where he said the garden party scene was exactly why I wanted to I wanted to make this movie because of that scene particularly and he was like, because I've been to that garden party. Yeah. It's awful. Like, yeah, damn, sure. Dude. Like,
he's fucking brilliant.
He's so good. And I mean, especially through the end of this movie, like I had totally forgotten, like one of my favorite scenes at the end of this movie is when he's finally like broken out. He comes upstairs and he's confronted with Catherine Keener. He tosses that teacup across the way. She takes a letter opener and stabs it through his hand, and the look on his face when she does that, he just stares her down. I'm like, damn, Daniel Kaluuya is going to fuck shit up.
I will not let you
take this.
Have any more control over me.
I mean,
I won't let you see harm in me.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, if there's any, like, he does this weird, like, I don't know how he stabs her at the end, physics-wise.
Yeah.
If I had, like, it's such a minor complaint, but at the end of the movie, we cut to Rod for what feels like too long, trying to, like, sort out the mystery. It's like, dude, we know the mystery. I could have lost all the Rod stuff. I think what they wanted was the Allison Williams, jujitsu's him, too.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, she lying. Oh, she's genius. She's genius. It's fucking hilarious. Mm-hmm. And then the cops not believing him, even though all the cops are also African-American. I'm guessing those are the moments you want to put in there.
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of pulled me out of the, like, holy shit, what happened? As a filmmaker and a writer, I'm guessing you put that in to give the audience some time to digest what's happening before we come back to the house.
I guess what I think, too, is, so in terms of the ending, because I think, so I don't know if you know, there's like 3 different endings for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
2 that were shot. But so the ending we have in the theatrical ending where, like, it's well paced, and I think because you were so, because I know, like, my fucking heart dropped in the theater when you see the police lights, and you're like,
oh, okay, so yeah. The action bits are fun, right? The bocce ball, the antlers, the stabs, he kills.
Yeah, all that stuff's great.
He stabs his knees. That's all great. When he flashes Walter, and then Walter shoots Allison Williams, like, great. Georgina going nuts. He ruined my house. You're like, wow, this is amazing. It's like fun horror movie shit.
Yeah.
When those cop lights hit,
the reality,
and you see Allison Williams
like,
start to go into the
shit.
Help me, and you're just like, oh my, because she immediately goes into the victim. Help me. Chris just stands up and looks so beaten, and just holds his hands up.
Yeah,
and we're like, we're gonna watch Chris get fucking shot right now.
Yeah. And
that is the choice at the end of the movie that I think just is such a beautiful cherry on top of the, oh my God, this guy, the universe has come together, and this is a genius level piece of work. Yeah. And I think, if I remember right, I think Jordan Peele said he almost threw this one away. Like, he's just like, yeah, this isn't it. Like, it's too, like, he started it and would stop, and he'd come back, and it took him a long time, right? He didn't feel like he was on the path.
Yeah.
In that decision, when those cop lights hit, you're like, that's the moment where you're like, the universe pulled him back. Like, we needed something this insane.
It's just the realism of the outside world.
Now we're not in the Coagula goofy movie phase. Now we're in the, like,
in the real world, we're like, holy shit. God, no. Please, no.
He's going to escape this family and still have that looming threat every single day of the rest of his life. Like, the tragedy and the criminality of that weighs so heavy on us.
So that happened. And then we get and again, the reason, I like the joke punctuation with Rod simply because all of us were holding our breath when we saw the lights. And I'm like, I think what Jordan Peele's trying to do is like, I'm going to send you out of the theater. Okay.
Yeah. Here's how we get shit done. And you're kind of,
so did you ever see the alternate ending? The other one, the original ending?
I did some point like a while ago. Yeah.
So the original ending for this was Rod visits Chris in prison. Because the original ending was that those were actual cop lights. He visits Chris in prison. He's like, hey man, there's a ton of evidence. Like, we can get you out. Like, he's like, no. Like, no, like, he's like, I'm staying here. He's like, they can't get me in here. And it's like,
yeah,
it's
a little bit more profound. I don't think there's any moment where, like, him and Rod driving away where you're like, oh, he'll just walk from this. Because I was kind of running through the scene and I was like, what they'll probably do is you'll be able to lay out a crime scene. And I was like, I'm sure he thought this through. But the crime scene looks like Walter ran amok. Georgina and someone tried to escape, probably Allison William.
Yeah.
He hunted them down, shot the car. They got out. He shot them. So they're going to just say Walter did it all.
Yeah.
Which, again, Walter becomes the African-American boogeyman who gets the rich white people, even though he was piloted by a rich white guy.
So it was the test screening thing. Like, the audience did not like that Chris ended up in jail. It was like not a happy ending. So they changed the ending to what we got.
This is not a fucking happy ending, guys.
I agree, but That's
I don't
test
think one dramatically changes.
Hang on,
I think there is an element. Okay, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
hold on. There's one other ending that I read about yesterday that I want to ask you, like, because I actually like this is like the ending that I'm like, oh, now that would have been just like fucking villainous. Was Rod breaks into the house as it's burning down. Like Rod gets into the house, he runs in and sees Chris, and he's like shouting at Chris, asking Chris. This ending doesn't make sense given the movie we got, and would have had to restructure the ending a lot. He's like shouting at Chris, being like, Chris, and Chris turns to him and goes, I don't know who you're asking for. Like the procedure.
That's honestly
happened.
my favorite of the three.
I kind of like it too, to be honest.
Here's the thing, though. I can imagine seeing Chris co-opted would be. It's hard to go back now and be like, well, now I'm just like, I'd love to see that.
Well, you
it's
have
like
to
the
redo the
Little Shop
completely.
of Horrors thing where we see Audrey 2 become like Godzilla and take over the whole world.
Yeah,
it's fun. I don't know how it would have affected that first one.
Mm-hmm.
And the prison one feels a little too much like
Real life.
really trying to say a lot at the end.
Yeah.
Right? That you could have said during the movie. If Chris is co-opted, that is just a horrifying bad feeling.
Yeah,
There's something ambiguous in this one. Even as Rod's doing his little jokes, at the end it's still Chris with cop lights flashing behind him, just thinking and looking out the window of how this moment played out, how it affects his life, how he still could have cops coming from him, he still could be fucking implicated, how going back out into the world that again is predominantly not his and treats him differently and is suspicious of him all the time for exactly who he is. The whole world is that fucking mansion to him. And there's something about just letting us sit and stew in that thought that probably makes this the perfect choice.
Yeah, agreed.
For the ending, right? Because, again, we don't need to... The prison thing doesn't say anything we don't already know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the idea that he's going to always fight this fight is fucking scary.
I love the ending we got. I think it's the best. Again, it's such a perfect movie that, quite frankly, any of those endings would have worked for me. But the ending we got, I
they
think
could have done
works.
anything with the last like 2 minutes of this movie, and it would still have been a 5-star movie to me.
Yeah, like to me, the ending we got is
Short
still
of the
just-
whites winning, that would have been a hard one.
That would have been the one I'm like,
Because I was
I'm
like,
out.
I get that that's how the real world works.
I get that that's how the world works, but can we not? This one, I
Or
liked
like
it
the
to
Clerks
not be-
alternate ending, where like we actually see Chris get killed by cops. That would have been too much for me.
Yeah, same.
Again, I don't need the harsh realism. I get it. I just sat through this fucking movie. I'm aware. Just like an incredible. And again, the amount of old white people in my life that saw this and like got it and did the ride with this, I thought was the incredible thing. I wish it would have kept carrying over for them. Right? Like I wish this would have changed them at a more core level. My old white relatives, I know you don't listen. I know you don't even like talking to me at Thanksgiving. Rewatch Get Out and search your hearts, please. All right, Alex, what's the most messed up moment in Get Out?
It's the garden party.
The garden party? The whole garden party?
The whole garden party is so uncomfortable and terrible. And especially once you get to the end of the movie and recontextualize it, you're like, God, white people are awful.
Yeah, just that old man's like, let's see your golfing hips.
Let's
and it's
see
like,
your
oh!
golfing hips. You're like, ugh.
That's just like a nightmare in general. An old guy wants to talk to me about golf, but now you're trying to check how your swing will look in my bod.
Yeah, I know
Yikes.
there are other messed up moments, but the garden party's
Well,
pretty
just
fucking weird.
even LaKeith, just get out.
Yeah.
Like, what a moment. Unbelievable. To me, the most messed up moment by miles is the Sunken Place. Just truly one of the greatest movie scenes ever filmed. The pacing of it, the slow filling of the tension that becomes unbearable where we, the audience, like Chris, can't move. Yeah. And just the thought that some just rich asshole can just tap a teacup and now I am just floating in nothingness forever, that all of my selfhood and identity and power are taken from me, is the scariest image in a movie that is absolutely filled with horrifying fucking images. That scene to me so transcends the movie and has become truly one of the most iconic things I've ever watched. Like that to me, stack it up with any
rare.
movie scene ever, and that to me is the most messed up moment.
It's rare now. We don't see it until much later, but like it's rare now to see an iconic moment in a movie and so quickly know it's an iconic moment in a movie.
It is one of those, like, leaving the theater, you knew this was different, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I remember this year, we all kind of, like, saw The Substance, and you're like, holy shit, I haven't been rocked by, like, a kind of horror movie like that in years, right? And I remember we were kind of like, oh, shit, this could make some award season noise, right? Mm-hmm. And it ended up not doing as well as I think we all hoped. Kind of got fucked by the Oscars. But you remember being like, okay, this could do something. Get Out was one of those... I didn't imagine horror movies could just, like, be up there.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine Jordan Peele could win Best Screenplay, right?
Well,
like,
at that point...
It wasn't a world I thought I lived in. And when it all started happening, you're like, I felt it. Like, I felt it leaving the theater. That this is one of those movies that someday I'll tell my grandkids, oh, dude, I was there opening weekend. Yeah. And we fucking knew this one was different. I mean, to me, it's like this... and Hereditary, like there's like 2 or 3 that are like by far the best horror movies.
But this one for me
of like
is
the
like
2000s. This one
is
for
like
me
the
highest.
Shatters iconography. It is its own iconography. Like it's such a cool shift to have been in the theater for.
Well, it's just again, it has so much voice and relevancy that sadly you feel like will never be a lesson we don't have to revisit. Whereas something like Hereditary, which I really think is the best horror movie since the year 2000, probably in my top 5 to 10 favorite horror movies ever already, there is an element of that movie that keeps you a little at arm's length, right? There is like a little bit of, I don't know if it's like a Wes Anderson-y rich whiteness, right? That's you're like, eh. Whereas this, even though I'm not African-American, it's so perfectly, and the filmmaking so puts me in the emotional space. Mm-hmm. This one just is, it's
just in the pocket the whole time.
You're so saturated with it. Yeah.
You've never seen a first film from a director so fully formed. Like Jordan Peele.
Oh my God, dude. I would love to like rank this among like
Jordan Peele arrives. Jordan Peele arrives and he's a fully formed filmmaker. It's weird. That's how it showed. It becomes a thing.
I mean, yeah, this and Citizen Kane. Like, what are the best first-time directors?
It's got to be
here.
These
I've got
two
it.
Like...
best first-time direct. Citizen Kane, 12 Angry Men, The Maltese Falcon, Reservoir Dogs. I don't think Reservoir Dogs was his first one, was it? Blood Simple. Get Out is listed at number 5 on this Collider article.
I mean.
Lady Bird 2017, Ex Machina 2014.
I'd say of the top 5, Jordan Peele.
Eraserhead, David Lynch.
No, sorry. I mean, like it's a great first movie,
dude.
But more.
So
like,
how about Charles Laughton in The Night of the Hunter? That's a good one.
But in terms of like, this is what I'm saying though. Like
the fact that he's even in that breath is incredible.
Well, like the top 5 arrive. There's 3, like Jordan Peele, the Coens, and probably Orson Welles arrive fully baked filmmakers. Like they're like, I'm here, I'm ready to make my films. And you're like, never look back. The end. Like there's nothing about Blood Simple or Citizen Kane or Get Out that you go.
District 9. There's some good ones on here.
Oh, early filmmaking mistakes. You're like, nope, these movies are excellent. And
oh yeah. But see, not only that, there are some of them where you're like, I see the artistry. This one also is so infinitely more entertaining than most of the movies on this list.
It's
because it has that like popcorn movie feel, while artistically being as packed as those. I mean, this is just one of the best movies we've ever talked about on the pod. And I get it's a gush fest, and I get it's an uncomfortable movie to talk about a lot of times.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. These are not easy things that we should brush.
These are not great times to have to address these problems.
Yeah, and it hasn't gotten better.
Haven't learned the lesson.
You could argue that the fact that we have absolute cunts being Nazis in public again means that we have a long fucking way to go.
Not only have we not learned the lesson, we just flagrantly disregarded it. So
it's not great. It's not a
great
look,
time.
Guys. I wish we could do better. I really do. That's it. For Get Out, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure you go to the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon for our Black Mirror episodes this month. Patreon exclusive, our community. We have lots of awesome stuff over there. We would love to have you join. Please, please, please. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube Misfit Parade, misfitparade.com to keep track of all of our filmmaking. Please find us on all the socials. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. More importantly, guys, the best thing we could ask you to do to help us out, send an episode to a friend. Send the YouTube video podcast to a friend. Send a Spotify. Send an Apple Podcast. Whatever. If you have a friend who likes movies, a relative who likes movies, send them an episode, and we'll take it from there, guys. Let's blow this thing up in 2025. That's all. That's all we got. Thanks for your time. We hope you're enjoying our April twist curation, a deeper twist. We'll see you guys next time for another Messed Up Movie.